G'day, it's Heath here from pickinglessons.com. In this banjo lesson, we're going to take a look at a beautiful O'Carolan tune by the name of George Brabazon. We're in the key of G, standard tuning. We're focusing on a few different techniques. We're looking at single string melodic technique, and we're also focusing on the brush with the thumb over several notes. As part of this lesson, we'll break down those techniques, have a look at what our left and right hands are doing. In a moment, we're going to take a look at part A of the arrangement here in this lesson, but if you head to pickinglessons.com, be able to get yourself a copy of the tablature that we're working from. We'll follow up this lesson with part 2, where we break down the second section of this part B, and we'll break all that down as we're learning it. And as a member, you've also got the backing track and the play along track you can have a look at there and play along with when you're practicing. So pickinglessons.com. Now let's start out with this slow playthrough of part A to get us going, and then we'll break it down, talk about the techniques of the single string, the melodic, and also focusing on that brush and working on getting a nice tone out of the banjo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's part A. So we are in 4/4 time. We're relatively slow. It's a slower tempo tune, so it's an air, so it's not played very fast. And we are in standard tuning, so you don't have to do anything other than leave your banjo in standard open G. So firstly, from that pickup note there, that's pretty easy. We're going to move on through to the first measure. The first measure, we have this thumb that's brushing across the open G chord there. And what we're going to do with this brush is angle the pick upwards. So rather than leaving the pick angle sort of towards the banjo head there like you would normally have as you're picking a single string, what we're going to try and do is focus the position of the pick in a slightly upward direction, and that will help us brush across the strings without it being too harsh in tone. So we're going to roll our wrist down to do that, roll the wrist across and brush through those strings. So when we come across these brushes, there are quite a few of them in this first half, we're going to roll that wrist down and drop the thumb down. So you can move the whole arm as you do that. So this opening section gives us... So once we've played this brush, we're going to come back into regular picking position to finish this off for the first measure. And so the thumb is quite dominant here. Thumb, thumb and index of the pull off, then a thumb and an index. So we're using this single string technique as we move through this measure. So brush, thumb, thumb and index, thumb and index. 1, 2, 3, 4. Second measure is the same. So just keeping an eye on that brush there. Try not to let your pick get too caught on those strings as you're moving through. Try to angle it up. It certainly makes it easier to play, but also it will sound nicer than just really attacking the strings perhaps with your regular picking angle. So rolling that wrist down and getting the pick in a slightly upward direction, so you can roll over the top of those strings a little bit smoother and with a nicer tone. Speaking of tone too, I have been playing this one myself up towards the neck of the banjo, staying away from the bridge, sort of that central to the neck position. I think that's a nice tone for this particular tune, but experiment yourself, remembering you'll have a brighter tone here and a more mellow tone towards the neck. Moving on, A minor is the next chord in measure 3. And we do the same thing twice in measures 3 and 4 here. So our thumb, we're going to brush again. So we're going to get our A minor position there, second, first and third fingers, and brushing across those notes back into regular picking position up next. As we play these next melody notes, what I want you to try and do is leave the fingers around that chord. So we play the A minor chord, we brush across the triad, then we leave that chord there. We commence the melody, we brush with the thumb, come back into picking position, thumb on string 3, and then repeat that note. Now take finger 1 away, bring it back in, take finger 3 away, then we bring it back in for the next measure as we brush. So we're trying to maintain our chord as much as we can. When we play an open string, remove a finger, but then bring it back in, then leave it. So we're creating this sense of chord behind what we're playing. So we're strumming or brushing across, then first finger comes off, back on, third finger off, back to the chord, repeat. So third and fourth measures there, we're really working around that A minor shape, just taking off fingers as we require them, but bring them back in. So don't just brush the chord and then take the fingers away. Of course that's going to be fine, but you'll lose that support of those harmony notes that we get from holding the chord. Moving on to measure 5, we can kind of maintain our chord there to kick it off. Coming out of the A minor into the C position there. We're not playing a chord, though, we're just melody notes. And that there is a good example of really just straight single string. So thumb, index, then a brush into a different C position. What we're doing here, we've got the open G, but then we've got the 5th and the 5th frets there. So with the E and a high G as well. Our melody's on top. All of these chords we're playing when we're brushing with our thumb, the melody is that last note we're hearing, the one highest in the chord. So same again here. That high G. And what we're going to do is drop the first finger there on this last beat of that measure. So we've brushed across the C position of the chord. First finger drops back to fret 4 for that F sharp. Open G on the 5th string. This is going to set us up for the next part of what we're playing in measure 6. It's a melodic run here. So we have a brush, second finger stays, and we start this melodic run, then back down the neck. So brush across the C, first finger on that F sharp, now 5th fret there, that E, open D, C, and open B. So the melodic run before we jump back down the neck. So let's piece together measure 5 through the first half of measure 6. Ready? And single string, brush, into melodic. One more time. Single string first. Ready? And brush the chord, melodic. Into the A minor chord now. Just a 2-finger pinch, thumb and index finger will get the job done there. Flicking finger 1 to the open B. And then thumb and index. You'll notice the thumb comes in on the single string moments on the downbeat, then we use our index finger on the upbeat. It's a nice pattern to get into. That can change, of course, but the majority of the time we're going to find ourselves doing it in that way. A minor, and a single string run over the G melody. Into the D, thumb, index, thumb with a hammer on, thumb and index. So again, following that method of the thumb on the downbeat, index on the offbeat, we have that hammer on in there on measure on beat 3. Get that finger on firm. One more time, measure 7. Ready and. Finishing off here before the repeat, measure 8, with the pick up like we had at the beginning of the tune. Now, second time through, we have an alternate ending. We'll check that out in the next lesson. That leads us into part B. So, things to remember so far, really working on that brush and getting a nice brush sound. Not too harsh, don't let the pick catch onto those strings. Roll your wrist down and let it glide across the strings. That's a nice way of thinking of it. Letting it glide across. Don't let it get hooked. Let it glide across those strings, and changing the angle of the pick certainly does help that. Single string, when we have single string passages, looking at a good example in measure 5, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, index, or even measure 7, thumb, index, thumb, index, thumb, thumb, index. So using the thumb and the index finger in those single string passages. There's a little bit of melodic here. There's more melodic in part B as well, but a little bit of melodic in this section coming out of measure 5 into 6. Using those open strings is really important. Make sure you use the open strings to help us change position when we need to. But otherwise, keep an eye on the finger through here for your right hand in particular. But Nice little tune. Don't play it too fast. Once you get it going, there is the backing track at pickandlessons.com, so it's really nice to hear it with the chords behind it, but this arrangement will work without that anyway. We have some support from our brushes. So those extra chords in there anyway from the banjo as we're playing it will really help support the melody as we play through it anyway. But yes, at pickandlessons.com you do have that guitar backing track as well, or get a mate to play it with you. Do head to pickandlessons.com. We'll be checking out part B next. So part B of this tune, we'll break it down. We're heading up the neck, similar techniques being used, but we'll check it out and break it down together. Pickandlessons.com, I'll see you there.